because I want to work with that young talent that had the same passion that I had stamped out. I'm back.
You saw the clip. You know what's up. CM Punk is All Elite.
What up, Mox?
Guys, get the review and reaction of AEW Rampage. It's all CM Punk. They started the show off with CM Punk coming out. They started off hot. I guess it was a smart idea on their part for not to have the fans chanting CM Punk the entire time and shitting on every single match. They're just waiting for CM Punk. He came out, massive pop. He was excited, hugged a bunch of people. You can tell he was emotional about being there. He's back 7 years away. He sat down the ring like the pipe bomb. Well, his promo wasn't like, anything crazy. He did end up challenging Darby Allin, who was in the rafters, for All Out. He will appear on AEW Dynamite this Wednesday. It wouldn't be CM Punk if he didn't dismiss everything he did in WWE, which is what he did. He said that his last night in ROH was the last time he was in professional wrestling. So dismissing and kind of, trashing everything he did at WWE, and now he's back in professional wrestling. So it's a big moment. It's huge. It is huge. I'm not going to say it's like Hogan, turning heel or anything up to that level. It's nothing up to that level. It's not like Jordan coming back either. I know, the thumbnail may imply that, but it's not that. It's not even close. It's
like Jordan coming back as a wizard.
Kind of more to that level. Yeah, it's more like that. But it is a huge moment. He is back. He has cult of personalities. His music again. He is there. He's there to stay, is what he said. He's not going anywhere. I don't think he's gonna be there consistently for years on out. He'll probably be in and out. We'll see if Daniel Bryan's the next guy to show up. But there's a big moment for professional wrestling and AEW. This really puts him on another level. I'm pretty sure WWE felt this one.
Yeah, I mean, shockwaves through wrestling. For sure, WWE felt it. It felt huge. It felt special. It felt big. Something we haven't felt in a long, long time. I can't remember that a debut that, even though we kind of knew it was coming, but they didn't tell you on Twitter 4 hours before the show, or let you know that it was happening. It just felt like a surprise. It felt like a shock. Last time I can remember feeling like this was when Rock came back before he was a host of that WrestleMania in Atlanta, where it was a surprise. I remember being with you and watching it and being like, that was the last time I felt this way, where I felt like a good shock and a good fun. It was just exciting. Yep. And I wasn't like the biggest Punk fan, even though I got the Blackhawks jersey on, whatever, for Chicago. But I wasn't the biggest Punk fan. But I don't know. This really got me hyped. It got me excited. For sure, it put a dent in the WWE fortress. You know what I'm saying? They felt that. There's no way they didn't feel that. That crowd was ridiculous. Chicago is a WWE town, and they stole it. They completely stole it, and it felt big. It felt special. We'll see. We're all excited for it. We're all hyped for it, but we'll see what the next couple of weeks and what the next months and what the next years with CM Punk and AEW bring. But this was a good way to start it. They did what they had to do. He explained himself for leaving, apologizing for all that stuff, whatever. That's what he felt he needed to do. But I mean, I thought it was fun. It was just fun. It felt big.
Yeah, it felt like a massive moment, which it obviously was. It's huge. It really changes the landscape of things. Like I said, WWE felt this. They can't deny it. They probably will, but they felt it. You heard Roman Reigns recently. I think it was yesterday. He said that CM Punk was never a guy who moved the needle like a Cena or a Rock. That is true. He's not at that level. He's definitely not. He's more of a wrestling fan's wrestler that people like, but like the mainstream people, no, it's not really their cup of tea. I've soured on him. I've soured on him a ton since his departure, not because he left, but the stuff that transpired afterwards, airing dirty laundry out, stuff like that. I'm not a huge fan of that type of stuff. And I soured on him, personally, but I'm excited to see him there. It's going to be a lot of fun, and excited to see how I'm more excited to see how AEW handles him and everybody else around him, because the roster is massive.
Yeah, it's a massive roster, but he's the biggest deal right now. I mean, he's like the brand new toy. And then you start thinking about the G match. You can have him versus Mox, him versus Kenny, him versus Jericho. There's a lot of potential there for big matches and big things. And he can bring stuff out. And I feel the same way. I soured on one as well. Like the podcast with him and Colt Cabana. I mean, if you're old enough to remember that, it's just like it a lot of hate, a lot of whatever, and whatever. We weren't there. Nobody was there between them and WWE. But he definitely always kind of shit on them whenever he had the chance. He did go back to them when they had that
technically,
show
he's
on
technically
Fox.
Fox though at that point. Like he's working for Fox, not for WWE.
It was Fox, but it's still it was a WWE branded show. It had the logo. They had WWE. It was Mark Henry was on that. Christian was on that. Paige was on that. Like I mean, it was a WWE show. It was Fox, but it was WWE. So it was what it was. But this is something to get excited for. It feels huge, and it puts AEW on a different level. Not saying it's at WWE is. It's like Coke, it's like Pepsi, it's like Ford, it's a brand. When you think of wrestling, when you think of soda, you think of Coke. When you think of wrestling, you think of WWE. That's the way it's always going to be to the end of time. But it definitely brings AEW to a level where you're like, wow, it's exciting, it's something new, it's something different. But again, they need to capitalize on this momentum that they built by getting Punk, and in a couple of weeks they'll bring back Daniel Bryan. But they need to continue to build on that for them to be viable competitors to $1 billion juggernaut that is WWE.
Yeah, like I said, if they can get to the level where their pay-per-views are held at the United Center, a 3-hour pay-per-view, or they're held at Madison Square Garden or the Staples Center, a big arena, they've made it. They've made it in professional wrestling. That's like big-time stuff right there. When they can hold a pay-per-view, a 3-hour event there, one of those places, I've said it a bunch of times, they've made it. They did the 1-hour show here at the United Center, which is huge, mainly because of Punk is why they probably got in that building. And it's just for the hour, so it's a lot cheaper. But if they can make it into those big-ass buildings for big events and pay-per-views, they've made it. But with that being said, let's book CM Punk in AEW.
He's gonna puke!
So CM Punk is there in AEW. How do we book him? He's obviously taking on Darby Allin at All Out. I think that's a one-time shot. Knock it out of the park. That's it. Done with it. I think where he needs to go immediately after that, the feud for him, and I think the feud for AEW, especially for CM Punk, I think the only feud that's going to really matter a ton is obviously if he goes for an AEW championship, whoever the AEW title holder might be. We assume he'll still be Kenny Omega by that time. He needs to face Jon Moxley. I think Jon Moxley is the biggest feud for CM Punk in AEW. I don't think anything really comes as close as CM Punk, Jon Moxley. I think CM Punk, Jon Moxley is the feud for AEW and for CM Punk. I think nothing will get bigger than Jon Moxley versus CM Punk. I think they'll match up really well with each other. I think their visceral promo style, I think more Jon Moxley is very visceral on the mic. CM Punk is more snarky. I think that might mesh well, and I think Jon Moxley can really push the buttons of CM Punk. He at least seems like one of those guys who can really push those buttons for CM Punk. And I think that's the feud. That's the money maker. That's the biggest feud he'll have, unless they bring in somebody else who I can't even think of that they can have in AEW. Will CM Punk hold the AEW championship? I'm not so sure about that, to be honest with you. I think he will eventually fight for it because he kind of has to, because if you see the effect that he had on Rampage, nothing else in the show really mattered. It was downhill from there. Even if the matches were solid, fun stuff, it just wasn't as important. But I think Jon Moxley, CM Punk, is the actual feud that needs to go in after he has this match with Darby Allin. I think, like I said, the visceral promo style of Jon Moxley versus the snarkiness of CM Punk, I think it'll mesh really well. I think it'll keep CM Punk on his toes, especially on the mic. But there you go, booking CM Punk.
He's gonna puke!
All right, so the next thing on the show, like I said, it all went kind of downhill. Now, you have the actual Elite Hunter, which is Christian Cage, because the Elite Hunter, Frank Kazarian, is useless. The actual Elite Hunter right now is Christian Cage. He got the promo talking about Kenny Omega. He's coming for that title. Obviously, he relinquished the TNA. He retired to start the TNA and kept the Impact. Then we have Private Party versus Jurassic Express in a tag team match for that Eliminator tournament to see who faces the Bucks at All Out in the Steel Cage match. Now, this match, you know what you're going to get, right? Private Party does a ton of big moves. So does Jurassic Express. I saw a top rope Canadian Destroyer. They got a 2 count. I mean, imagine losing to a top rope Canadian Destroyer. I mean, that doesn't make any sense whatsoever, right? For you to lose to a move like that. But whatever. It is what it is. And Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus get the win.
Dr. Britt Baker, DMD out here. Jurassic Express. One. Jungle Boy's got him. You can count to a
Get the win. They move on.
Yeah, I don't love Private Party. I've never loved them from the day they came in. I don't love this Matt Hardy thing. It's one of the weakest things in AEW right now. But I love Jungle Express. Like, they're great. I love them. I dig them. I love the entrance. People are behind them. I think we need to push them into the upper levels of the tag team stuff, and they need to face the Bucks and be a big deal. And I think that's where they're going. I think it's time for them to push them there. But yeah, Private Party, Matt Hardy stuff. I don't like it. I've never liked Private Party. I'm sorry.
Yeah, like me
it's
either.
nothing personal. I just don't like the way they work in the ring. I don't like they don't sell. They just do crazy jumpy gymnastics moves all day, and none of it looks solid. None of it looks tight. It looks weak, and they do nothing for me.
Continue to bury the Canadian story ever more by doing it off. You do it off the top rope,
This is a move that, like, in 2004, I'm sorry if we're old, we're in our 30s, I'm sorry, but like that move was the most amazing move for like a good year.
Yeah.
We're like, we would go and try to break it down in our old DVR and just try to like stop it, and you couldn't really see it because it was all pixelated. But like, how does he do it? How did Petey Williams do it? And now you do it off a top rope and it gets a 2. Yeah. It's like, what move will work? Like, what do you have to do? Like, to beat somebody? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. But they move on. Next thing we have is Jade Cargill, who I haven't seen in a while in the ring. She's taking on Kira Hogan, squash match. Jade Cargill, appearance-wise, an absolute megastar, like a star for the women's division just by appearances only.
She's a big girl.
Yeah, it's just a tremendous physical condition, a beautiful woman, very, very confident, cocky, sassy, all that stuff. But she's very green in the ring, so considering like if she can season herself a bit more, she could be a major player in AEW in the women's division.
Yeah, I mean, she definitely has the it factor. She definitely has the look. She has the personality. She has the charisma. But the in-ring work stuff is very like, it's very Ultimate Warrior, like just crude and rude. If they got to work on it a little bit, but yeah, they can't just have squash matches for it to mean anything. But like the rest of it is all there. Like, she's a star. It just needs some ring work.
Yeah, like it's all quickly all done because obviously it's 20 minutes was spent on CM Punk. So the final match of the show was Jon Moxley versus Daniel Garcia. They have their match. Jon Moxley, is working well. Very, very physical, very he seems like he's wrestling right now with a chip on his shoulder for some reason. I assume it just maybe he feels like he didn't get enough credit for being the AEW champion during that pandemic era. Maybe that's what it is. It feels like he has a chip on his sholders right now. Again, that's why I think CM Punk will be the feud for AEW that will cement AEW. But they have the match. He gets the win. And then, 2.0 comes in and attacks Moxley. Here comes Eddie Kingston. Then here comes Sting and Darby Allin. They can't make the save. So I'm assuming we may get 8-man tags or 6-man tags. Probably 6-man with, Sting on the outside. 2.0 Daniel Garcia versus Eddie Kingston, Jon Moxley, and Darby Allin. But, they only had a short amount of time to work with. But I guess they did the best they could.
Yeah, I mean, it was a solid little match. More than ever, like you're saying, like Jon Moxley, like he's the perfect, like you broke it down earlier, but he's a perfect CM Punk first big feud. Yeah. I feel like Darby Allin's a great match to go off. You might have like 1 or 2 matches, but I think the money maker right now for CM Punk is him versus Mox, like you said, and then Punk has to become the champion. He has to. He just has to beat Kenny to take the title. I love Hangman. I want him to win, but I think we got to push Hangman to the back because Punk is here, and I just think it feels important if he beats Mox to get pushed into that Kenny Omega stratosphere and become a champ and do what he does best: cut killer promos and have great matches. And I think that makes perfect sense to me. But Mox is on a different level right now. I'm loving it. What he's doing is he's changed his look a little bit since he's been champion. Like you say, he has that chip on his shoulder of the fact that he was the pandemic era champion, which is the early stages of AEW. That's within the first few months of AEW was him being champion and him taking that mantle and running it through the entire empty arena stage of AEW. So good for him. He's doing it, big things. Shout out to Roman Reigns that basically said that he should have been the man in WWE. He should have been like that guy. And if they would have the creative part, stop getting in the way and let Mox be Mox, this could have been a whole different story. But we got Mox in AEW. He's a beast. Continue to watch him.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting how they do this going forward. Like I said, there's a lot of the most interesting thing to me for AEW right now is their roster management, how they're gonna work these pieces to the puzzle, these chess pieces on the board.
We have 2 shows now, two shows on TNT.
So we're gonna see how they kind of move stuff around and how they incorporate guys in and out. Obviously, a lot of guys work on other companies and they come in, and they leave, and they come in, and they come and they leave. But so sometimes to their detriment. But we'll see how AEW handles it. But again, CM Punk is all elite. He is back, 7 years away. He's here. He's obviously excited to be there. Everybody's excited to see him there. It's a massive move. It pretty much kind of like brought down the show afterwards because it just started off so hot. It kind of it can only be a letdown afterwards, but it is what it is.
That's why it's good to be an hour show, not like 2 hour show Dynamite.
That's why they did it on a Rampage rather than Dynamite, because they knew it was going to take away from the rest of the show. So appreciate you guys for tuning in for our AEW Rampage review and reaction. Make sure you tune in tomorrow. Me and Jonesy Chat Wrestling, the Wrestling Report. We are going to cover in depth the CM Punk stuff, him coming in, more rumors and stuff about WWE, maybe the Sasha Banks Bianca Belair match not happening at SummerSlam. But we're gonna get a lot of stuff from the Wrestling Report. It's gonna be episode 7, so make sure you tune in tomorrow for that live stream with me and Jonesy Chats Wrestling. We appreciate you guys for tuning into this one. Make sure you subscribe, and we'll catch you guys on the next one.
It's your free ice cream, Marks.